Hi, my name is Jason Miller. I'm the owner of Cedar and Fig Interiors based out of Phoenix, Arizona. I want to thank 2020 and Syncly for this opportunity to present to you today. Today's topic is a subject that I think most of us struggle to master. However, I've prepared a few tips that might help in protecting your time and schedule. A little bit more about Cedar and Fig. Cedar and Fig is a residential design service based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Last year, we won the SKS Architectural Digest Technicurian Kitchen Design Award, and also featured as a top 40 under 40 in the nation by Pro Modeler magazine. As we go through this, like I said, we're a full service residential design service, so we work on kitchens, bathrooms, and total home. And so as we get through this, you'll be able to see some of the work that we've generated as well as the topic of how to say no. We'll be focusing on 6 points. These 6 points kind of make up the whole purpose of how to say no. The first topic is People Pleasing 101, overcommitting. What sacrifices are you making? Setting healthy boundaries. Knowing your client expectations. And then also setting realistic timelines. We're going to break these 6 points down in half, focusing solely on the first three, and then we'll work on the last three. People Pleasing 101. Here are some signs of a people pleaser. The tendency to say yes regardless of personal circumstances. You avoid wanting to offend or disappointing people. You want to appear valuable, and you desire to help others. In my research and in my personal experience, people pleasing is a common attribute of society. It can be a good trait, however, it can be bad as well. These three we typically see not so much as a negative thing. We always want to be appear valuable or helping others, but we also want to avoid offending or disappointing people. The topic that I really want to focus on is this one, the tendency to say yes regardless of personal circumstances. There are three types that I've identified of a little bit more kind of detailed people pleasers. The sacrificial type, I'll just work on this one last thing before I head to bed, and then it's 2 a.m. later. The to infinity and beyond type, to make sure your idea or concept is heard. And the workhorse type, to accept additional work or modifications to get the client what they need. I personally have been all three in different capacities. But the to infinity and beyond type is to make sure pretty much your idea or concept is heard. But be mindful, less is more. If you're trying to get your point across, it's better that you are concise and to the point, rather than beating around the bush or beating the bush. This one I actually experienced last year with a client. It's the workhorse type. Sometimes it's easier for us just to accept the work and get it done than it is to say no. A prime example, like I said, this past year I was hired to design a fireplace wall. The client needed to use the existing fireplace insert to make the fireplace more symmetric, and also providing storage for items and add lighting. I took all these in consideration with them after the meeting and started coming up with a design. Halfway through the design process, the client went to a local showroom, and the attendant at the showroom offered my client samples of different black tiles. And so they provided me with those tiles, and I started getting to work. Yes, my friends, this is 34 renders of the same room, the same fireplace, the same furniture and layout. You may notice a few slight differences between many of them, but most of them look the same. The client requested that each sample tile that they provided would be put in a render. As you can see here, um, many of them are very different. Many of them are the same. In this one, the client wanted to see what a herringbone would look like with a plank tile. As you look at this one, an oversized hexagon tile. But then the client asked, well, what would it look like if it had wallpaper or white shelves? And so finally, after the 34 started to build up, I decided that I was not going to redo um, a, a rendering just to feature white shelves and wallpaper. So I compromised with the client and said I will adjust one of these to feature wallpaper on one side and then drywall on the other. In the end, what seemed to be a 4 month, 4.5 month project, the client ultimately chose something completely opposite. They chose to go with a large profile, statuario, 24 by 48 tile, as well as no wallpaper and green cabinetry. And so 4.5 months of going back and forth with this client, it seemed to be more of a waste by just accepting the work rather than telling the client, well, which ones do you like? I can go and render out a few of the ones that you like and then kind of take it from there. In the end, if you're like me, this is typically how my files are stored. I never override previous versions, and so I end up with long lists because the client sometimes goes back to the original design. And it might just be easier to keep the file and revert back when needed. Point 2, overcommitting. Do you commit to an unrealistic timeline? Accept projects or documents later than promised? Change your priority list multiple times a day to accommodate new assignments? Commit to having it completed before all of your other priorities. Again, 4 topics that I have dealt with over the last couple of years. Um, Committing to unrealistic timelines. People ask, "Hey, when can I get this done?" Or when can I have it? And I end up saying, "Oh, well, I can get it to you in 2 days or a week." But just be mindful of your time. In conjunction, what sacrifices are you making? Are you missing out on sleep, a child's soccer game, a child's cheer competition, or an evening out with friends or family? Now we'll move into the remaining part of the presentation. Setting healthy boundaries. Sometimes going that extra mile is needed, but not at the expense of family responsibility or activity. Going that extra mile is needed to win the business of a future client or organization you've hoped would notice you. It's also necessary to take it further to mend a relationship or a partnership when we fall short. You will know when it's necessary, but make sure it doesn't become a habit and is used sparingly. If someone knows that you're willing, they will take advantage of you and expect it in the future. Have you spent time on a project, crossed every T and dotted every I? You were proud of the workmanship that you diligently poured into it, only for the person it was for said, I didn't need all that. The minimum effort was sufficient. In this example, I had rendered out their kitchen with pretty much everything in the cabinets, the flowers, um, the colors and things, when all the client was expecting was what you see on the right, the line drawing, just to kind of feature the features of the cabinet or the layout. After looking at what happened, you realize that you didn't ask the proper questions. Here are 3 steps to guarantee that you will save time and close projects quicker. Ask pertinent questions that give your clients time to express what they want. After you receive their vision, if there's still gray areas, I suggest that you repeat the responses and ask them to clarify. It's okay if there's a little awkward silence. That will let them know that they need to be more descriptive or give better details. Once you have started the process, any information that is adjusted or changed from the original meeting is to be done in writing form. By having it in written form, you can take that information, format it into a list, and then use that as a checklist to make sure that their changes are accounted for. Be careful in your timing of things. Be upfront. Think through the timeline. Do you have other projects, assignments, or duties that would be affected by this? Will this compromise relationships? Look at your calendars, all of them. I have found it best never to give an answer immediately. I have also gotten myself into trouble, and sometimes still do, too many times. There's nothing wrong with saying I'll take a look and get back to you. Just remember, if you expect someone to accept your assignment over another, that person may do the same for you on a future project. Allow for the unexpected. Life happens. Plan for something to go awry, and then when it does, you have a buffer. It's always better to complete it early than to ask for more time. Strive to meet the deadline, and be honest. In any situation, strive to meet the deadline, and if you don't, be honest with your client. They don't need to know the details of why the deadline was missed. Focus on the positive, and work hard to get it done. Key points from today's presentation. Go above and beyond when needed. Set realistic and healthy boundaries and keep them. Be honest and upfront with your timelines. Ask for clarity when there is gray areas of instruction. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you to Syncly and also 2020 for the time to be able to present this to you. Again, my name is Jason. I own Cedar and Fig Interiors based out of Phoenix, Arizona. I'd love to connect with you through Facebook, through Instagram. And so I do wish you best of luck and have a good day.